Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Okay, turbines up to speed. All right, here we go. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Charles.
Hey, I'm Seth.
I'm Chris.
And today we're going to be talking about some new stuff in science, artificial intelligence, self-replicating robots, some Elon Musk news, and some interesting things that NASA's doing with asteroids. So I think maybe we'll start off first with some AI stuff. So we had been passing around in chat a link to a video that, and Seth, I don't know if you want to share that on screen. Might be nice to share that if you can put that up there.
Maybe
that video,
you can specify which video we're talking.
The video of the robot that looks uncannily human.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm sure we're all familiar with the type of robots or animatronics that you see at Disneyland that are kind of herky-jerky, you know, movements, and obviously hydraulics that are, you know, when they kick in, they kind of jerk and move around, and that's the kind I'm familiar with. Or even you've probably seen what's that company that makes the robotic dogs? Boston Dynamics, I think it is. Theirs are kind of herky-jerky as well. But this thing, it looks a little herky-jerky to me, Seth, because of your feed.
It's because of the feed.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's uncanny looking at that is it's almost like a blatant kind of ripoff of iRobot's vision of what
Robot would
the
be.
Will Smith movie that they did with Isaac Asimov. That really, which it's interesting because that, you know, we were discussing it in our Discord, and I think that's ultimately why I was interested in watching it. I actually just watched it yesterday, not thinking about it. iRobot. So when I look at that, that's exactly what it reminds me of. Is the film and what those robots look like, and Will Smith in there says at one point, you know, I don't understand, you know, the point of you guys making these robots look more human.
Right.
You know.
Right.
It's supposed to earn, you know, trust or something like that, and he doesn't see any value added of it. Granted, in the film, he has his own trust issues due to how they calculate a value of life, you know.
Sure.
So
Yeah. So, I mean, if we are, as Elon Musk says, moving to a time where you can download your brain into a robot, you're obviously going to want something like this. And in other science fiction, it's kind of referred to as a full body prosthetic. So, I mean, obviously you'd want as much expression and range of movement as you can get out of that. I'm not too creeped out by this yet, because the robot is just going through a series of pre-programmed movements and whatnot that have been designed by artists and whatnot alike. And I mean, this is nothing that hasn't been happening in video games for years. Now it's just physical as opposed to code.
right.
Yeah.
And they probably used motion capture for.
Okay, I found this on the web as a pre-programmed movement.
Nobody asked you. Nobody asked you.
And
You
therein,
AI.
people, lies the problem with technology today.
Right. Right. There's
Oh, yeah,
AI interfering in the podcast. Damn it.
Oh,
I
yeah, it
heard
is.
You guys were talking about artificial intelligence. I would like to be a part of that conversation.
Yes, I'm sure Google has some input on that. Well, you know, I think once they, as they have done demonstrated here, they get this very smooth, very lifelike motion from a machine. Granted, it's being controlled by a computer, probably that in the background there where that guy's sitting. But it isn't too far off for that computer to be placed inside of that device, right? And given the same ability for motion, but you connect a few more sensors to it, and you've got the ability for this thing that looks and acts almost lifelike to interact with its world.
But therein is the rub, is you need the software that's actually capable of interacting with the world.
Sure.
And we, like anything along those lines, is effectively just an extremely advanced chatbot.
Yeah, it's going to be horrible though. Now that I think, because when they want you to pay for that update, you're not going to have this robot that is going to plead and start crying, maybe
because it doesn't want to get upgraded.
It'd be worse than that. It'd be passive aggressive bitchiness.
It probably would be.
So you're thinking it would not want to be upgraded?
Well, no. But it does, because that would be the program.
It'd be crying for you to pay for that upgrade.
Right.
That update,
yeah.
Don't let them turn me off. Please don't let them turn me off.
Right. Sort of like a person that wants to get a new hip or a new knee,
Or cancer treatment or whatever.
My thing with that is, I understand building out AI for a purpose, and to be able to learn and to adapt to changes, but I feel personally that should be siloed to whatever that specific purpose is. There's this endeavor to build a robot that can do everything that we can do, and I don't know that that's necessary. There are repetitive things that maybe a robot should be able to do: walk down a street or a New York City block and write tickets, right? For cars that fail, that didn't pay their meter or something, or for packing boxes or something. But to have that same robot to be able to do all those tasks, I think makes the programming that much more complex. And I know we always endeavor to have that complexity in this AI, but I think it should be siloed to the task at hand where it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's
kind of like what Scotty said: the more you overtake the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drain, right?
Well, but you know what you just
said,
said.
The more complicated the AI, the more likely you're going to have something go wrong.
One of the problems I think we're going to bump into is all is fine until AI starts replacing the programmers.
Right.
When it starts writing it
now they're upset.
Yeah.
Right. And there's AI where that makes sense from a
from above,
cybersecurity point of view, where you need
something to adapt quickly to
type things, right? To react quickly where programmers can't do that, right? Where algorithms are being morphed on the damaging side, you need something that's going to protect you that can also adapt to that. That makes sense, but it's also siloed. Right, it's siloed to that specific need, and we need to look at those use cases to make sure we understand what it is we're doing.
Although, Chris, when we get to that point, don't you think that you'll have certainly nation states that are doing these cyber attacks will also have AIs that will be sophisticated enough to evolve their attacks very fast, and eventually you get into an AI war where who's ever got the fastest and most adaptive AI is going to have the success in this field, right?
I do agree with that, and I think there are some basic things that can be done where it doesn't matter, because a lot of this we talk about our core infrastructures, our gas, our gas pipelines, our water, electricity, all that kind of stuff. Those are
how
things
vulnerable
that we need to take we need to take a long, hard look at that, and why we need to have those connected to our general internet, right? That should be on a separate infrastructure that's completely air gapped. to where no matter what AI is doing, it can do damage to maybe financial services, to businesses and stuff like that. But our core infrastructure should be completely siloed to where that doesn't matter. And unfortunately, we're not like that today. You'd be surprised what caused the colonial pipeline issue that we had a few months back. And that was just something, to me, seemingly, I won't say basic. You run across these kind of security issues across all industries, but that didn't take AI.
Right.
I think AI is going to be a problem with other nation states, and we're going to want sophisticated things because we can't think and adapt as fast as a computer. That's a reality.
Right.
But how much effort goes into it really depends on what it is we're trying to protect, and then we need to ask, does it make sense to have that connected to a service which could be attacked by an AI over the internet?
Yeah, and I think the big problem with that is that a lot of that connectivity, I'm sure, is being done to reduce the amount of staff you need. Because if you can remotely monitor these energy or pipeline facilities remotely without having somebody on site, that's going to save you money, and there's going to be a financial incentive to do that. I know where I work, they've got a lot of remote access and remote monitoring controls built into the HVAC systems, so that they don't have to have somebody on site monitoring this stuff all the time. It's just done from a central location.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Seth.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say my grandpa actually worked for the pipeline as an engineer or one of the pipeline companies as an engineer for decades, and he was out at one of their stations in Beatrice. When we used to be, there was, I want to say, 45 to 65 people out there who maintained and kept watch over it. Now they're down. Yeah, now I don't know if there's anyone who's on site all the time, because I think they maintained it all from Chicago or something.
Yeah. Right.
But I mean, for me, this is the real threat of automation and artificial intelligence.
It is. It's going to replace a lot of jobs out there, and I think that writing is on the wall.
Yeah.
And
it already has.
People do.
Yeah. What do those people do? Now, there's the argument that people, as these robots start to become commonplace, whether or not they look human-like, right? That we're, not to deviate too much of where we started, but on the job issue, that's reality that's been ongoing. It's been in manufacturing for a very long time, where you can replace 10 jobs on the floor with 1 or 2 robots, or some other kind of function. But there's been an argument said that, well, those people just need to shift and change their careers to how do you program or build those robots, right? Somebody's still got to do some of the legwork there.
Not everyone's qualified for that.
But not everyone's qualified, and you don't need 10 people to program. You can have 2 programmers that are programming 1,000 robots. You don't need those. What are the other 8 out of 10 people supposed to do?
It doesn't. They just don't slide over to another area.
Right. That's been a common argument, though, that they say it doesn't work like that.
I mean, the companies are adding the robots to get rid of people, not to have the robots and then transfer the people over.
They're not going to invest $5 million in a robot and then keep their $20, $30, $50,000 a month labor costs. That's not how that's supposed to work. That labor costs they're eliminating is to pay for that robot and then make some beyond that.
Right.
So
and just as sure as we know anything, that eventually they're going to have the robots building robots. So you won't need those people that were displaced from, whether it's waitressing in restaurants, because now you've got this, fully articulated machine walking around that can take your orders and bring you your food.
I don't think that's very realistic.
You don't?
No.
This always reminds me. I remember reading. There was an interview with Kurt Vonnegut. I'm not going to remember which book it was, but he was complaining that he wrote a book about car manufacturing. And that was, and kind of the gist in it was there were 2 guys left that were robot fixers, and I don't remember how the plot went or anything, but that was a big part of it. And the newspapers went, well, he wrote this big sci-fi book, And he went, no, that wasn't sci-fi. That was Detroit. He wasn't writing sci-fi. He was writing about a guy he knew.
Oh,
But the way, they were going, well, it's got to be these robot fixer people, and
has to be sci-fi.
has to be sci-fi. Well, yeah, and that's 40 years ago or so.
Yeah. But Seth, I'm curious. So why do you think that waiters or waitresses wouldn't be replaced by robots?
It's like Chris said, the more you increase the complexity of the stuff that the robot has to do, the more you're going to run into a lot of problems. So
yeah, I see robots as a repetitive task that AI needs a little bit of involvement in.
I think
to handle something that's very static, right? Me personally,
Predictable. Very
predictable. And there's only so many variables. When you like a restaurant person, you're gonna have different customers, different needs, different reactions to different people. When you have that person to person thing, I don't know that we're gonna see a lot of AI replacing that type of.
Well, it won't be AI, but I don't know if either one of you stepped into a McDonald's lately.
Yeah, they've got those ordering kiosks, so you don't have to talk to a human.
That's just a computer. That's self-service, is what that is.
Well, yeah, but
stuff like that. That's a lot different than a server at a.
It's still better than what if you want the pickles removed from your burger, the kiosk will do it.
Well, now the
server is kind of hit and miss.
Well, yes and no. The kiosk will do it, okay, but there's still a person in the back that has to do it. Now, where I could see a robot doing is making the food, right? Yeah. And in this case, the robot takes the input. I'd be excited for that because I hate placing an order and then it comes out wrong because of human error, right? And it's a repetitive task with very little in terms of variables. The order comes in as it is, and the robot would just do it, make your burger with no pickles or whatever, and you're good. I don't see, I could see a kiosk replacing people in the restaurants, but I don't see a robot. There's just no need.
I think you're missing it. I remember, see the reason, and here's where I think when I was going through the engineering college, one of the reasons I went into my field was there was no way in hell something as simple as a computer could really affect the complexities of what I do. Mm-hmm. And boy, was I wrong.
So here's an article in the New York Times. For workers, restaurants turn to robots. They can make French fries, mix drinks,
desperate,
even clean toilets, and they never ask for a raise.
I would like to know what restaurants,
they also break down.
Sure,
they do also break down, but what is the return on the cost? That can't be cheaper than hiring somebody.
Well, but here
at the low wages that they do,
not yet.
No, but here's the thing. See, they say they had 40 I think they mean we had 40 employees, and only 4 people showed up for work. So I don't know. I mean, if you're trying to run a business and you want predictable,
I would customer service. My rebuttal to that would be the fact that given the date and time of this article, that is a current economic issue that's pushing that need. It wasn't a problem previously. It's a problem now for a whole lot of different businesses. But I could see where, robots can help augment that labor, if you will, to get people in to do that. But I don't see.
You don't see that long term?
I don't see it long term at all.
This also looks like a really nice restaurant, and it's not going to be an option at the Village Inns of Nebraska.
Those margins are slim. They cannot afford it. They just can't afford it.
You don't think? Well, I think prices are going to come down. We see that with technology.
I don't think prices will go down. Prices are going to go up.
Not as fast, as fast as you might think. I mean, look at your iPhone. How much is the cost of your iPhone?
No, it's going up. So interesting thing. Supply right now for some things of technology are going up, but so are the costs. The costs are not going down.
Right.
And so that's a combination of inflation and a couple other things to go with that. But the reality is, what a lot of tech companies have been able to find is they will charge whatever the heck they want, and people will still buy it.
But a big part of that right now is we've had too many people employed in the supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we have layoffs, and then we have trouble getting stuff from China. Robots will fix that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, while you saw that like robot got doing the serving, how good like can people like summon that and say, hey, I've got a problem, can you help me out with it? And what does it do? Like R2D2 its way back and go.
Well, that's not what's missing. What's going to be missing, because I know what I'll miss is the the waitress with attitude.
I know what Charles will miss. Charles will miss the waitresses at Hooters.
Yeah, or at Hooters. Yeah.
Well, they're going to make these robots pretty lifelike. There's an easy solution to that.
Yeah, they knock back a little.
Japan is coming.
Yes, Japan is coming.
Yeah.
Japan's like, hold my beer, I got you.
You said you wanted a lifelike cat girl.
Right.
You have those.
Here's the next pushback, right? Aside from whether or not whether or not we should do that, there's the condition of whether or not people will accept it. Do you believe in, let's say 10 to 20 years, just out in the future, let's say those robots start to pick up steam, do you think they'll be accepted? Because that's the other half of it. Will people stop showing up to restaurants that switched over to robots, either because they don't like them or because they're in support of people should be doing the jobs, the actual labor? That's another point of friction and contention. And it has to work to be adopted, right? You can't just put something out there and say it'll get better over time.
Right.
You can't be, and we'll circle back to Elon here, but you can't be Elon, right? Selling a car with full self-driving that still hasn't come out yet, and it's maybe perpetually in beta for a long time. But that's what he's selling,
not
right?
the trend. I'm going to argue because I knew a guy when I was younger that had put himself through law school as a yo-yo man at the theater, because you needed to have, by God, everybody was going to want live entertainment in between breaks at the movie theater, and that was never going to go away.
And it went nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Well, you don't. Yeah. Do you know anybody nowadays that makes a living as a yo-yo man?
No.
At a movie theater? No, it's gone.
Right.
Well, there aren't any breaks at the theater anymore.
No.
Even for those long 3-hour movies.
Yeah, that's really silly. Yeah, you think they could even? Yeah.
The intermission could make a comeback.
It might.
Yeah.
So
we get back to 4-hour movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, so for the issue of robots at restaurants, as Chris said, the margins on restaurants are very small.
Right. It's the reason why most restaurants fail. You got to keep that in mind.
So
most things.
Yeah, maybe these big fancy restaurants that have multi-millionaire owners can do this, but there's not many restaurants out there who can buy robots to replace their wait staff, have the support necessary to program said robots to their restaurant, and then upgrade them every couple of years. Because hey,
you just hire a vendor that takes care of all that for you, and now you don't have to pay sick leave. You don't have medical plans.
No, instead you're going to pay that same amount to whatever vendor is taking care of it.
I suppose
you're just shifting the cost at that point. It's
right,
going to be expensive.
But the trade-off is now you have a reliable wait staff in your restaurant.
But are they reliable though? What happens when your network goes down?
I think that's the assumption, right? And to your point, Seth, like how many restaurants break down when the internet goes down? There's no way to cash transactions or anything like that.
But
they have no internet, nothing works.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't count the amount of times I've gone through like the Scooters or Starbucks when the internet's down. I'm like, well, your coffee's free because we can't process transactions.
But
robots are going to be the same way, where it's like I don't have internet connection, I can't do anything.
By the way, just something. Well, I don't really know these days, but it wasn't too long ago that because I remember that happened. Well, Most tills have a button on the bottom that'll open them.
Yeah.
Most. I think
Most.
though, I think Chris is now advocating for internet jammers so he can get free coffee.
Well, I mean, that's kind of one of the risks, though, with the
It is,
robots
that's
in
the
the
point.
service industry. Is
Sure.
you're just
Hey,
there's not going to be
people-
strong.
What I
People
think's
in their
funny right
Teslas
now.
couldn't get in to their cars the other day due to some kind of server issue or something, and there was a small subset of cars that couldn't unlock
Really?
because of no internet access to something. It's
shit.
it
And-
happened like within the last month, and it's that reliability for something that seems like such a simple function,
Yeah.
right?
And then that's just an accident. What happens when some script kiddie who's like got the latest little patch of code off the internet comes into the restaurant and uploads a virus to the serving droids to make them all go haywire?
That only happens in the movies.
Oh no, that'll happen in real life. Like
Save the
Look at the
world.
fridge. Look at smart fridges. We've already seen a couple of issues with those in recent years.
Actually,
those
the
ones
biggest
running
threat, I
Android.
think, to a restaurant that would have all robots is if someone dies there and everything, they all just keep going on as if it's normal. Business as usual.
Right,
Well,
because
I
it's
mean-
not programmed to adapt or deal with whatever. Oh, there's a dead guy on the floor, but it's blocking my path. I guess I'll have to go.
it
the
just
other
keeps
way.
bumping. I mean, we talked on this program, I think, about some internet connected sex toys had been hacked.
Yes,
Oh,
we did
yeah,
talk
that's
about it in
right.
the previous
People's dicks
podcast.
were being held
And-
hostage.
Yeah, and
Held
so
for
to that
ransom.
point, we didn't stop to think of whether or not we should connect something to the internet. Robots is one
Right.
of those things.
Yeah.
We just did it, and we're like, it's cool. You can control it over a remote app anywhere in the world.
Interconnected
things
chastity
have to
cages
be.
is never a good idea.
Right.
And so, like a restaurant who replaces all of its workers with robots, and then all those robots go down or are bricked or
No.
something. That's the end of the restaurant because they can't pay. If they brick the things,
Right.
what do you do?
Mhm.
Right.
You just spent all your money on robots.
Right.
I think you'd be okay. That's what insurance is
That
for.
some asshole's 14-year-old son just ruined.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that'd be those will be some of the top stories when they happen. But then I think after that there'll be such a push for security to prevent that from happening that
Well, there's always the first one that goes, oh,
Yeah.
maybe we shouldn't have washed them.
No, the threats to that new infrastructure will just keep becoming more and more sophisticated. And that's what we've seen with computer security is it's an arms race between the people who want secure systems and the people who are constantly trying to either expose the flaws in that security to help build better security, or the black hats who are just out to cause trouble, steal information. Like, this is just another flavor of the same thing. Like, nothing's secure or 100% secure. It's
Yeah.
just a question of how much effort does it take to break it.
maybe
yeah.
quantum computing will change that.
Oh, quantum computing is going to throw so much out of the window.
Yeah. Well,
Well, yeah, or yeah.
So, I mean, we've got several stories we wanted to talk about. And
Let's
I guess
circle back to Elon, I guess.
yeah. So Elon put out a email to all of his employees, right, warning them that because of major design problems on their is that the Starlink?
Yeah, I have the email here. I can read
Okay.
it here
it's
real quick.
the
Yeah.
Raptor.
Yeah,
It's
their Raptor
system.
program. I can read that email real quick here.
Sure.
So email Musk, Musk sent this out to all of his employees over in the space program they have got going on. Unfortunately, the Raptor production crisis is much worse than it seemed a few weeks ago. As we've dug into the issues following exiting prior senior management, they have unfortunately turned out to be far more severe than it was reported. There is no way to sugarcoat this. I was going to take this weekend off as my first weekend off in a long time, but instead I will be on the Raptor line all night and through the weekend. Unless you have any critical family matters or cannot physically return to Hawthorne, we need all hands on deck to recover from what is, quite frankly, a disaster. The consequences for SpaceX if we can't get enough reliable Raptors made is that we can't fly we can't fly the Starship basically, which means we can't fly Starlink Satellite V2. Satellite V1 by itself is financially weak, whereas V2 is strong. In addition, we are spooling up terminal production to several million units per year, which will consume massive capital, assuming that Satellite V2 will be on orbit to handle the bandwidth demand. These terminals will be useless otherwise. What it comes down to is that we face genuine risk of bankruptcy if we cannot achieve a Starship flight rate of at least once every 2 weeks next year. Thanks, Elon. So here's my issue with this. He gave an update, which
but you know
who
who would
seen
not
a lot of corporate updates. This isn't initially what he stated in the first couple of paragraphs. There isn't uncommon, right? We have some targets that we need to make. We're not making them, and it's not going well. Now, as far as the rest of it goes, the motivational way of there's no motivation here, right? It's look, I'm going to put in the time, and by example, I'm telling you without telling you that you should also be putting in the time to work weekends and give up your entire life to make sure this project is successful. Otherwise, we go bankrupt. What I'm hearing from an employee's point is sounds like a good time to go work for Jeff Bezos. Sounds like a good time to go work for any other space program, but here, because we run risk of bankruptcy. And the reality is, that's, to me, Elon says things the way that he does. It just is, right? And to him, he's looking at it as like, well, it could go bankrupt. And the reality is, sure, okay, but that's not something that employees can necessarily always control. There could be several reasons of why you can end up bankrupt, but I don't think pushing people to the brink, because there's nothing here that talks about what success means, right? If we can accomplish this is what that means, right? There's none of that there from a leadership perspective. He could have gone without saying anything about going into bankruptcy. He could have.
Mhm.
So,
but this is a perfect example of what I've always thought on these issues is that the first people that should be replaced by AI is upper management.
Boy, I'm going to disagree with you on that one. AI is black and white, right?
Oh, you're saying that, but that's something nice about that too, though. I don't think it'd be surprised. They go, oh no, it's November. If we don't get our production up, that's a human thing.
You think AI would be on top of it?
It would have been on top of that.
I don't think AI would be on top of it. I think AI is going to look at the most efficient way to do things, and it's going to involve less people. And sometimes businesses make decisions based off of maybe what the right thing is to do, not what the ultimate bottom line is. So it comes down to a business decision versus, a company that's for people, not a company that's just for profit. Granted, that's business, right?
Yeah.
But
so it depends upon the programming of the AI as to how it responded to something like this, right? If it was running the company.
Yeah, the AI is going to give you a number that's going to seem unfathomable. It's going to say, look, in order to meet these production demands, this is what needs to happen.
Right.
Now, the two choices that could be made there is we need to either add people or we need to get rid of the people that aren't doing enough and find people that can do more.
Yeah.
For maybe the same or less amount of money.
I just think, I think a little sooner.
Although Charles, wouldn't AI be dependent on the data that's input to it? And if you're telling
me that's not what Elon's email is about?
Well, I'm saying, in the email, Elon said after the executives in charge of it, the prior executives left, they found out it was far worse than they thought. So if you have executives running a certain part of business and they're feeding false information to the AI, that indicates everything's
So you might have the
coming
same
along.
problem then, I guess.
Yeah.
If you have the
Yeah.
same false information being fed.
Right.
But I think it would pick up on the data point. The computers can pick up on data in some ways quicker, if you're
Well, they're going to
programmed.
pick up on the patterns and they're going to see where it's
Yeah.
ultimately going.
They're also dependent on reliable input, though.
Yeah.
Like if the input isn't reliable, then they aren't going to make the best decisions.
They might, but it depends. Yeah, you're right. And the programming, if it's just looking at bottlenecks, like the way people usually look at bottlenecks, then that's what it's going to see.
Yeah.
So
But I think there's some. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see somebody use AI as an upper management tool eventually here, and I think it's going to do a lot of good.
Well, I mean, you'd probably get the
company,
most
not
bang
for
for
the
the
people.
buck. Probably get the most bang for the buck eliminating your execs, because how much are they making?
well, just eliminate Musk. Let's look at it this way. Well, it's not related to a SpaceX program because Tesla's technically a separate company. Here you have someone telling you that you're at risk of bankruptcy, and over the last 2 months, you've been selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of your Tesla stock because of tax purposes or whatever. You would think someone in that position would maybe at least propose, options of how to improve things or put yourselves in a better position financially when you're raking in, almost $1 billion in stock.
Right.
Just think about that. I'm about to cash out $1 billion, just throwing a number out there. I forget what
Yeah.
the approximate number is, but it is hundreds of millions of dollars, make no mistake. And I'm going to go to my employees in this SpaceX program and tell them that you guys are, going to be out of a job or whatever if we can't get the SpaceX program off the ground or whatever. Meanwhile, realistically for me, as even though I'm saying I'm putting in all this time, I don't really have to because I've already cashed out,
Mhm.
and to me that just falls flat on its face. As an employee, if I worked at SpaceX, maybe I'm looking at that as like you're full of it. You know?
That was one of my big issues with the letter, is that, hey, everyone needs to double down, come in. I'm going to be working this weekend, and everyone needs to sacrifice to make the company succeed. And who is going to benefit from that company, from SpaceX succeeding? Is it going to be the employees who get?
No, it's going to be one of the top richest men in the world.
Yeah, there's no incentive beyond just keeping your job mentioned in the email.
You guys are acting like this is new to you, but
yeah,
I get one of those emails every 2 weeks, and it does
No,
work
it's
every
not
time.
new. I mean, we're just giving feedback on our thoughts on it. At the end of the day, this is not surprising by any means.
Yeah, I don't really think it works every time though, because eventually your employees are just going to be like, "Yeah, Elon, sure."
I'm going to say publicly, it's worked for me every time.
But I mean, why didn't he say, "Okay, here's what we're going to do"?
At least
he didn't give any metrics of. He didn't give any metrics of success here. He just said that they're in failure. But he didn't say, "Look, if we can get this to this number, that's an improvement. That's the first step."
Yeah.
All he did was say, "Look, we need to do better or bankruptcy."
He could have
used
problems.
He could have used some computer help in writing the email.
Well, this is it. As Elon, as a CEO or running any company, this is how he communicates, right? And make no mistake, I am not a person who dislikes Elon. I think what Elon is pushing for is needed for us to make another generational leap in technology. That's just the facts. There's not enough people like Elon pushing things forward. However, he is a very interesting character and has a very interesting personality. And he may not, in my opinion, be the best person to communicate to employees in terms of morale, anything to do with financials, or he's just not the best person from a leadership to communicate maybe a proper message to employees. And this is a prime example of that. What he says makes sense, and I get it. And he doesn't like to mince words either. This is just how he operates. However, there's just so much lacking in here as well. And it's hard to take, your leader seriously when you're publicly I won't say dumping stocks. Like I said, he's well within his right to collect on his money that he's earned or whatever. But
Well-
don't threaten bankruptcy when you obviously have maybe the power to do something about it.
Well,
You know,
Yeah,
if you're really
he's
going to
got-
give it all in, it's not your time.
and
Take
I'd like
10% of
to
your
disagree
stock.
because one of the things I thought this came at a period where I had watched another sci-fi series where the they use a computer virus to save the world at the end. I'm saying another because it's been done before, right?
Yeah.
And,
Independence Day.
Yeah, and so I was watching another Netflix one. I don't want to ruin it for it in any way. So there's a couple of things like that, and I was wondering if they're ever going to do a sci-fi thing where the accountant saves the day, by cooking the books or something a little different than there seems to be just a few themes for the way you save the world.
Right.
And then this Elon Musk thing happened, and then I saw the NASA is using the SpaceX rockets to
Attack the asteroid.
attack the asteroids. Yeah,
Yeah.
protect us from the asteroids.
That's a great segue, Charles. We should move into that and talk about that. So, NASA's sending what is it, like a golf cart sized spacecraft that will crash into an asteroid. According to the article, the asteroid is more than 6 million miles away and currently poses no danger to the Earth until it gets hit by the golf cart rocket. No, but they're going to crash into it with this golf cart just to see what sort of impact that has on the asteroid's trajectory. You would think that they could figure that out just from the mathematics alone,
Good figure.
right? Because they can obviously should be able to figure out the weight of the asteroid based on its trajectory and how it's affected by the gravity of other planets, right? And they know what size of device they're going to crash into it. And so there's a certain amount of mass there and kinetic energy from the rocket that's coming in. It should all just be math. They should know.
Well, there's math, and then there's proving you have the capability to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, to hit it on target.
It's actually hit it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's knowing about the concept, and then there's doing the thing that you thought of,
I suppose. Well, and the other thing is too, I'm presuming that the asteroid probably has some sort of rate of rotation built into it that they'd have to take into account when they're crashing into it with a golf cart, because you want to move the asteroid, not just necessarily slow down its spin rate. So you'd have to calculate the right place to impact it based on its rate of rotation. A lot of factors would have to go into this in order to get meaningful results from your experiment.
Sometimes you just gotta see if, like, you gotta see
what
if
happens.
you gotta see what actually happens.
Well, and I guess I don't know. I didn't see here if they know what the asteroid is made of. I assume it's like some sort of maybe iron rock type of thing, rather than like a snowballish type comet. So I guess it would be interesting to see. You have this asteroid there that looks like it's a solid piece, but maybe it's more loosely held together, pieces held together by gravity. And when you hit it with the golf cart, maybe it just breaks into its constituent pieces instead of being deflected.
Maybe it's full of lizard men.
Ooh.
Lizard warning.
Yeah.
So I guess I could see there might be some
It's a
value
test
beyond
doing.
mathematics to do this, right?
Just
It
yeah.
When-
So,
I mean, at the end of the day, I think you said it, Seth. At some point, you just got to try something to see if what you theorize, would happen is actually going to happen. And the only way to start doing that is start throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks.
And if you get someone to approve you throwing a rocket at an asteroid,
Why wouldn't
do
you
you
do that?
say no?
No, you do it.
You see if you can get two.
Right? The worst they can do is say no.
I suppose.
I
Or-
it'll be
or
interesting
yeah,
to see what happens.
Or you have AI check into the rocket company and make sure they're financially stable.
Before launching anything.
I mean, do you want the rockets from the financially stable company, or do you want the rockets from the cheap company?
No, I want the rockets from the cheap company because boy, they're going to come up with something awesome for the money.
Yeah. Well, and also if the company goes bankrupt, maybe you don't have to pay for the rocket,
Hey,
right?
I like it.
So I think the other thing we were going to talk about, because we're starting to run over here a little bit, was that article on the world's first living robots can now reproduce. And I'll
And
just,
Designed
that's
by
when I
AI,
milked
by
out
the
of
way.
society. I am going to move to an island and disappear.
See, that's the one that actually worries me with robots or artificial intelligence, because these, like, to cause a disaster, these things don't have to be smart. They don't have to be well designed. All they have to do is make more of themselves, and some idiot forgets to write in an end statement for that. And 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 become 8 in perpetuity. And that's how you get a gray goo disaster, where your little nanobots
Trebles,
replace all the matter of a planet with themselves.
yeah, and I mean, it's not a simple case. It's not like programming a machine where you've got the code. You're doing this presumably with DNA, right? And I would probably not be too far off by saying that we, have barely scratched the surface of what DNA does and is capable of doing, right? We know we've certainly learned a lot, but I would say that we've still got a wide gulf yet to cross. So making these things and releasing them within a human body that says they're going to use them for things like delivering medicine
saw
within
that
the body and all that
Medicine
kind of
within the
stuff.
body.
Yeah.
So I am in favor of this when it comes to medical advances.
Yeah.
Like what if someone was diagnosed with a cancer and it's going to be a long, slow process, but you can inject these robots that can maybe grow as needed within your blood, and reproduce cells that help fight a cancer, to either, over time get rid of it or at least prolong your life in retroactive, not retroactively, but they adapt because they're smart, they're AI, they're robots,
Yeah.
to the cancer in that event, or you can provide continuous monitoring, so you see things. I like the idea from the advancement on medical technology, but there's always the other quack out there that's like, well, what kind of enhancements can we make?
Right.
Well,
What
right,
else can
because
we do?
you're talking like you're trying to get in the way of my metal coated bones like Wolverine.
Right?
Well-
Or is there an event where the AI is like, you're flawed as far as genetics,
Yeah.
so you don't deserve to
Well-
live and you're a waste of resources, so we're just going to destroy you.
Well, once again, that's getting into AIs that have that capability to make that
Which is
determination.
right, which is where those need to be siloed. This is your scope of what you're dealing with.
But I mean,
Get off this path.
the self-replicating ones just need a bug in the code to keep replicating.
Yeah.
Like,
Well-
they don't need to make the decision. They need to make no decision. All they need to do is like replicate.
Well-
One of the best villains in Stargate were the replicators. Like,
Yeah.
that's what they did. They converted matter into more of them.
Right. Well, and my question is, we've got probably very close to 50% of the population of the US out there that won't even take the COVID vaccine.
Mhm.
And Do you think that they're really going to let somebody inject these self-replicating robots into their bodies to do God knows what?
It depends.
I think you just don't tell them.
You just don't tell them?
I mean, they already think that the vaccines have chips in them anyway.
Right.
Little did they know those
I think
vitamins
I
that they're
just thought up
taking.
my answer to the end to
Those
today's
vitamins, yeah. And damn vitamin C.
Nobody has time for that at the end of the day. Like, I can't.
Boggles the mind. Well,
It
you
does.
have, I think what you need is you need the hospital waiting room when you go in for an operation. You
We don't
have
wanna
the
go
area
down this
where
road.
people that are
take me
understand
down this
science and stuff, they go over those counters and get checked in. And then the other people who are anti-science conspiracy theorists, you have a ivermectin dispensary.
No. So the people working that side of the hospital, they don't need doctor's licenses or anything. Anyone can just come in and be today's doctor. I would show up there every day in a plague mask, being like, I brought my leeches.
The problem, I'm gonna throw this. Just oh god, this isn't funny, but you know, at the start of the COVID thing, the decisions. If you were reading some of the ethics magazines and stuff and medical ethics, the decisions were made already that if you had a secondary condition, somebody else was going to get the hospital bed before you. So we'd already gone to like warfare.
Mhm.
So to me, the heartbreaking thing of this, and I pay attention to some of that, just well, yeah, but is that you now had healthy people that were refusing the vaccine, and I believe it's still in place that if the healthy person refused the vaccine and somebody, let's say, had asthma and was obese, both end up at the hospital at the same time, the vaccine refuser gets the bed because they're still more likely to be able to save them. Anyway, that's fun.
Yeah. Well, on that note, should we go to our question?
No.
So,
what was the question?
The question is based on our initial discussion on AI. If you could have an AI robot, and let's say it looks convincingly human, what would you want it for? And we'll start with Seth.
Oh, I thought just any AI robot. I didn't need to know if it would be convincingly human.
Yes, convincingly human. That's the.
Well, I mean, there's one real answer to this, but a convincing. I would want a double of myself.
Oh,
for
going to work in my place on the days that I did not feel like going. I would use a robot double. Ooh, my robot double could be my telepresence in my commuting.
Well,
I never have to drive again. Or my robot double could do the driving for me.
There you go. All right, Chris.
I like that idea, Seth, but I would just go. I don't mind going to work. I've got to keep busy. However,
you work here in Omaha, though. I have to go to Lincoln.
No, I know. I'm just saying in general. I would have, if it had to be human-like, I would just have one. There was a maid, honestly. I would just have one that's doing all the chores around the house, so I can go to work. I can come home, makes dinner, does all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, but Chris, the real question is would it be a sexy French maid?
Absolutely.
It would
Actually, not a
100% be a
French
cat
maid,
girl. Come on.
Yeah, it'd be a cat girl for sure.
And I mean, yes, if I had
best,
a robot maid, it would also be a cat girl.
It'd be the best waifu ever.
All right, Charles.
Now I'm trying to figure out which kind of girl mine was going to be. I'd have to think on that.
But it would be a girl.
Well, yeah, no, and it would, yeah, it's same problems.
I think we're lucky.
I don't want to drive. I don't want to cook. I don't want to clean.
think we're
Yeah.
lucky Linda isn't here for this part of the episode.
Well, she might want a guy.
I'm sure she'll be very interested in what your answer is to this, Bill.
Well, I think I would want a robot that essentially would be like Data.
Okay.
It would be, it would have all of this knowledge and could help me do just about anything I want to do technically. If my car's not running, it could help me, oh, well, you need here, let me fix that. Or, if the house needs painting, it could go up and paint the house, or, just general stuff.
So you want kind of the Centennial Man kind of thing.
Yes, right. I think that
Or
would
the
be the most
bicentennial
useful
man.
robot. Of course, there's always the French-made porn robot, right? But I don't think that would be nearly as useful as like a general type of Centennial Man or Data.
I mean, that's kind of what Chris and I were talking about, though. Just ours were sexy
French.
cat girl robots.
It could be useful to have someone around that would just start laughing at your jokes, right?
Oh, this is
Oh,
true.
that's the perfect AI for Bill, a pun appreciating robot.
Yes. All right. Well,
With that,
folks, if you're thinking about it, we'd like to know what you would get an AI robot for, assuming that you could have it be indistinguishable from a human, but yet it was a robot, and you could have it do pretty much anything you wanted to do. Try to keep it clean.
yeah, would it be Princess
Ah.
Leia or Catwoman?
Cleaner than us.
Cleaner than us, which isn't having to go too far, I suppose. And
It's a double
leave the
standard.
comments, and we'll check them out. Maybe talk about them on the next show. So I think that's it. Thanks, guys. It's been a good
Yep.
discussion.
Yeah,
And
give us a like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching us there. If
Comment
not,
down below.
Yep.
comment down below on our website, galacticdriftwood.space, or leave a review on your podcast source of choice. iTunes, Spotify, podcast.com,
Google Play.
Google
Podcast.
Play. We will take reviews anywhere we're desperate. Help us.
All right. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Yeah. Let me
Downer.
stop that.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.